There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes with honoring your internal no while everyone else keeps going. Even if you don't have a meltdown, if you don't attack anyone, or even if you don't make a scene, you just stop participating in something that no longer feels honest, and the room keeps moving. Well, sometimes years later, I mean, literally years later, someone might circle back and say, yeah, you were right. I just didn't see it then. This episode is about that moment, what it costs to hold self-authority, and why even when it's hard, contorting yourself costs more. Welcome to Gutter Wisdom. This is a show about how power, desire, and discernment all show up. We use sexuality as a diagnostic lens for the rest of your life. I'm Priestess Francesca. In the last episode, we talked about discomfort, how to tell the difference between growth and guardianship. Today is about what happens after you listen to that guardianship, because no one really talks about the social consequences of clarity. This episode is about what happens when capacity threatens belonging, and why, in the end, it's still a choice I would make over and over and over again. Let's do a throwback. I was 8 years old, second pew, Brooklyn Catholic Church. Weekly mass, same as always, like a good Italian family. The priest starts the homily, and he's talking about gay people, condemning them, calling them sinners, blah, 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 blah. You know the drill here. At that age, you still think adults are like fucking superheroes, that they're supposed to intervene. At 8, you still believe authority and care are the same thing. So obviously, I look at my ma, I don't say anything, but my eyes are very loud. Aren't you gonna do something? My eyes say. She looks back at me, and her eyes say very clearly, shut the fuck up. Not now, kid. And something lands. I realize she's not going to do anything. So if someone is going to move, it's going to be me. So I stand up, I walk straight down the aisle, right in front of the priest while he is still talking, and I stand in the back of the church with my arms folded in protest. That was the first time I remember understanding truth and authority don't always travel together. And belonging often depends on just pretending that they do. Boh. Did that moment make me rebellious? I don't fucking know. But I'll tell you, it made me accurate. That same pattern showed up again and again for me in my life. Teachers who were harming kids and didn't want to be questioned got my smart ass mouth. Corporate leadership protecting systems instead of people got my direct feedback. And spiritual spaces talking about love while quietly punishing clarity got my bold exit. And you're welcome, because any view of me walking away from you is also a view of my beautiful ass, which is literally a gift. But I digress. Every time, the choice was the same. I could stay quiet and stay included, or I could honor what I was feeling and stand apart. Guardianship doesn't always make you popular. Sometimes it even makes you inconvenient. Allora, let's get into the mechanics. Groups that rely on fantasy need everyone to keep participating in the story. When one person says, "This doesn't feel right to me," reality enters the room. That's destabilizing. Not because it's inherently aggressive, because it can't be controlled. Capacity doesn't break healthy systems. It exposes the fragile ones. Again, a little louder for the people in the back. When a relationship, a group, a dynamic can't adapt, it usually does one of two things. It politely ignores you, or it quietly reframes you as the problem. I see this all the time in my work also. And most recently, a client that I've been working with for a few months started getting clearer in her body. Clearer yeses, clearer nos, clearer about which relationships fed her, which ones drained her. She realized through this clarity that a women's circle she was a part of was making her actually really uncomfortable. So she did something very clean. She just said that she was stepping away. She named discomfort, didn't attack anyone, didn't ask for anything. And the group fucking unraveled. Concern turned into pressure. Support turned into bargaining. And when she didn't comply, the warmth disappeared. Poof, some love and light, am I right? Naturally, her body went into freeze and then into full-on get me out of here. She came to me convinced that this was a trauma response that she needed to heal. It wasn't. It was guardianship coming up again. Her system clocked that she was under social threat from people who had previously framed themselves as safe, family, her people. And when she stopped pathologizing that response and trusted it instead, the relief was immediate. Not particularly euphoric, but relieved just the same. And there's something in this story I don't want to skip. Yes, honoring guardianship can cost you belonging, but contorting yourself costs you reality. And more damaging, it costs you your authenticity. It costs you honest connection. It costs you intimacy that can survive a disagreement. It costs you relationships that can actually grow with you. Relationships built on compliance require constant self-editing to maintain. They feel stable until you realize how much of yourself you're keeping out of the room. When the fantasy collapses, something else becomes possible. You become available for relationships where your no doesn't threaten the bond, where clarity doesn't require exile, where disagreement doesn't equal abandonment. This isn't louder love, it's sturdier love. It's mutual, it's honest, it lasts because no one has to disappear to keep it intact. Self-authority doesn't isolate you forever. It clears the field so that you can actually meet people who don't need you to contort in order to stay connected. If honoring guardianship costs you belonging, then that belonging was always conditional. Conditional belonging isn't love. It's a contract. Love doesn't require you to override yourself. It requires presence, and presence can't exist where truth isn't allowed. Once you stop overriding yourself, certain relationships just don't feel the same. There doesn't even have to be drama. Sometimes you can just see clearly what's actually being asked of you now, and you're like, nah. That's where I'm going next. I'm going to dissect the dynamics. We're diving into relational power, into what happens when desire moves faster than capacity, and into the mess when filthy fantasy meets real-world consequence. If you want a clearer picture about where your system holds and where it collapses under pressure, the Engineering Hotness Quiz is at priestessfrancesca.com/quiz. I'm Priestess Francesca. Until next time, keep your mind in the gutter, y'all. You'd be surprised with what you find in the dark.